Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 6th of October, 2025. My name is Graham Hughes, and you are watching Morning Brew here on Politics Social. Hello, everybody in the chat. We've got Vendetta and Scott and Martin and Dark 4x4. We've got Joanna in there, Sonic Shadow. We have Jane Lockwood and Veg Pie. Hi, Veg Pie. We've also got Alistair Kerman there. He's waving. He's waving. He's waving. If you'd like to join our wonderful friends in our wonderful chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for approximately 60 seconds, and then you should be able to say what you want. Within reason. Don't be a troll or we will mute you and boot you. That is the rule. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about Donald Trump. I'm sorry, we're going to talk about this to start with, because he did have a particularly unhinged week last week. But then we'll get on to some domestic stuff. I'll look at the papers, and if there's anything that you want to discuss, let me know in the chat, because, you know, you're always welcome to derail, send me off on some wild tangents around the universe. If that's what you want to do, you're very welcome to do so. So, hi everyone, and hope you're all well this morning. Let's talk about Trump, who doesn't seem very well at the moment. I mean, look, you know, Trump's handle on reality has never been that solid. But this is about something that I touched on this channel many times in the past. But this kind of collective dementia that we are seeing around the world, where people let go of reason and let go of reality and regress to this kind of infantile view of the world in which everything is really simple, and this kind of anthropological, what's it called when you sort of give human features to a tree? It's someone will tell me what it is in the chat, but you know, you give it to a car or you give it to a lake or something. That is what we're seeing at the moment, where people, grown adults just see the natural world around us and the built world around, the built environment around us, as having this, you know, personality that's basically a slave to our whims. And it's not even like that we're using these things in a constructive way. Most of the time, we're just destroying them. We're just taking something beautiful and just smashing it up. Taking something that works and destroying it. Taking something that has been studied for centuries, millennia, and now we have the building blocks of it surveyed and measured down to the macromillimeter, you know, and they're going, that's not real. No, that's not how it works. Anthropomorphic. That's the word I wanted. Daylight Dave. Thank you. Thank you for helping me out there. Anthropomorphic. That's really hard to say at this time of the morning. Get me in the evening, I reckon I'll be able to say that a lot better. But yeah, so I think that this sort of brain rot is prevalent all over the world, from Hungary to Argentina, here in the UK with your Brexiters and UKIPers, and now your refuckers. And obviously it's prevalent in America, where we're seeing the plot of Idiocracy, which at the time was set 200 years in the future, playing out 20 years after that film was made. And that is so disturbing. The speed of the cognitive decline of people all over the world. And there's certain reasons for this. The fact that, you know, the old generation, not all boomers, but the old generation have been poisoned all their lives through lead, through petroleum, through tobacco, through alcohol, and it's fucked them. It's fucked their way of, you know, and the problem is, with if something goes wrong with your brain, it's really hard to understand that, because if you hurt your hand, you know, your brain gets signals saying your hand is in pain, so you move your hand out of the thing that's causing it pain, and you move it out the flame. But with your brain, you have another brain that tells you that your brain is malfunctioning, that it's not working as it should. And people are incredibly arrogant. So, You think about how difficult it is to get your average man to go to the doctors to go get checked up about something that might be a bit of a worry. They tend to leave it to the last minute, and many men die as a result. If they had got that thing seen to earlier, they would have survived. Or might have survived, or might have had a better chance of surviving. But as things stand, they left it too late. And a lot of that is to do with arrogance. I'm fine, nothing wrong with me. I'm perfect. Everyone else is just marching out of step. I'm the only one marching in time. And that everybody else in the universe is getting it wrong, apart from me. And it's a very, if you've not got much going on in your life, it's a very subtle thing, that people, just have in the back of their heads of everyday life. Well, what have I got? And the more that the oligarchy, the more that these billionaires, now Elon Musk is worth over $500 billion. I can't get across how much money that is. If you stacked £50 notes up in a stack, you got to $500 billion, right? Just £50 notes on top of each other. It will go past the International Space Station. The stack would go past. That's how much money it is. You could put that in a bank account earning 5%. You're then £63 million a day. A day. You could buy a private jet every morning. I mean, wow. That's a lot of money. While they're stealing everything, there's less for the rest of us. That's why living standards haven't improved. That's why the cost of everything has gone up, but our wages haven't risen in comparison. That's why it costs so much to do anything, to see anyone, to eat anything, to drink anything, to experience anything, because the billionaires are hoovering up all the available funds. And yeah, when it comes to money, it is a zero-sum game. There is only so much money in the system. And that's all being taken by the 0.1%. What have people got? So you got a lot of little Englanders who go, oh, I've got the fact I'm white. A lot of Americans who go, oh, I've got the fact I'm white, and that's about it. And then they get very upset when we talk about white privilege, because they think that means that they live in a castle, like Dominic Cummings. No. It doesn't mean you live in a castle. It just means that you don't have to deal with racism every day. Just means you get a little bit extra that you don't even realize, just by dint of the amount of melanin or lack of melanin you've got in your skin. But yeah, all roads lead back to Putin and Netanyahu, says Chris C. Yeah, you're right. They absolutely do. Thank you so much for the first super chat of the week. That's quite exciting. Thank you very much, Chris. And you're right. There you go. And Alistair is there saying, chat, please go show some love to Super Tansky. Yes, please. She had some bad news yesterday, so give her a boost. Give her a boost. She could really do with it. Jack says, the only thing is my head isn't removable, but I'm here today, so good morning, beautiful people. Yes, Jack, absolutely. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I often think about the first person who realized they were colorblind, and I think they were an absolute genius. Someone who looked at a painting with a mate, and the mate was gone, oh, look at the shades of red and brown, and they're saying, I don't see that. Whatever it was, they could step outside of their own brain enough to figure that they might not be seeing colors like somebody else can see colors. I think that's absolutely fascinating. And I think that is the sign of not necessarily someone a genius, but someone who's more of a rounded human being than someone who can't even consider for a moment walking a step in someone else's shoes, never mind a mile. And this is something that I think that we've lost a lot of sense of. And it's very interesting, isn't it, that when I'm in a room, right, and I'm talking to people, the most intelligent people there, I find, are the most empathetic. The people who care the most about what's happening in the world. And because they care, they're more aware. So because they're so intelligent, because they get to that point, but it's not just book smarts. It's not just street smarts, but it's emotional intelligence. They'll generally be the smartest person because they know that if everyone, that they come in contact with is having a very bad time, they're going to have a bad time as well. It's just the way it is. If everyone around you is poor, you're probably going to be poor as well. Unless you're that one rich person in the village who steals from everybody else, you're not going to be getting on. And because like I keep saying, money has to move around. You need to move money to make money, and that's why austerity is such a really, really bad idea. But isn't it interesting that that guy who got shot dead a couple of weeks ago in America, he famously said that the problem with the world is there was too much empathy. Was that him or was that Musk? I think it was both of them said it at some point. They targeted empathy as being a problem. You know, the problem is that people they just care too much. They care about each other. They see another human in distress, and then their natural reaction to go and help them, which is a natural reaction. That's it. You know, if you don't have that reaction, I'm sorry, but you're a sociopath. You know, it's as simple as that. Or a psychopath, you just don't care. You just don't care. Well, at least a psychopath would feign that they cared, whereas a sociopath just step over someone who was dying on the streets. So yeah, just to bring this back to Trump and his sort of cognitive decline. He's had possibly one of the most strangest and most incoherent weeks so far. So here's what he's done. He's posted fake AI video of himself announcing med-bed hospitals, which was just weird. He reposted a racist meme of Hakeem Jeffries, who's the minority leader of the House of Representatives in America, with a sombrero on. He's claimed that Tylenol causes autism. He's confused Albania with Armenia again, which is quite funny because in a script I've written called HMS Apollo, which is about the British moon landings of 1969, which is going to be billed as just as historically accurate as Braveheart, no one says the word America. It comes up once, and people keep confusing it with Armenia. They go, oh, do you mean Armenia? And that's a running joke through a comedy film. This is the President of the United States mixing up Albania and Armenia and talking about a war between Azerbaijan and Albania, which would be bizarre because they're quite far from each other and they're both Muslim countries. He means Armenia, which is a Christian country, which has had border disputes with its neighbor Azerbaijan since the fall of the Soviet Union, the collapse of the Soviet Union. They were both SSRs. They were both within the USSR. Now, the USSR is split into 15 countries, and Armenia and Azerbaijan are two of those countries. Now, this kind of stuff is way beyond Trump's pay grade because he can't read. Like, he's functionally illiterate. There's a possibility he needs glasses, and he sees glasses as a weakness, so he won't wear them. And his fingers are too small, like a little pudgy, little weird, little orange fingers to put contact lenses in himself. So he essentially can't read. You know, he just gets things put in front of him, and he does this squiggle. He does this childlike squiggle on it, and goes, right, I've signed it now. He's suggested that US cities could be training grounds for US troops, to learn how to kill people, to kill American civilians. Training grounds, Jesus. And he's bragged about, his gold-plated decor. Again, like this is something that is just absolutely bizarre. This was when he was asked about a mass shooting that had just happened, but it happened a few weeks ago when Johnny Kirk got killed. And someone said, you know, your friend got killed. Are you sad about that? And Trump went, yeah, well, you know, the thing is, I'm getting this new ballroom and it's amazing. You know, and at the moment they're undergoing a government shutdown. And this government shutdown is happening because the Democrats are saying you can't cut Medicaid. And in response, the Republicans are saying, what we want to do is we want to stop illegal immigrants from accessing, or undocumented, immigrants from accessing healthcare. But here's the thing, right? If someone's been hit by a car, right, and they're bleeding out on the street, you've got to take them in and you've got to stitch them up, right? If you're an undocumented migrant, you're not going to get any long-term stuff. You're not going to get cancer treatments. You're not going to get treatment for Parkinson's or dementia. You're not going to get it, right? But if you're in an emergency situation, they can't check for your passport. They can't check for your employment status. They can't check for your immigration status. Because if they had to do that, they'd have to do it for every single American. So it wouldn't matter, right, whether you were American or not. There would be a delay, or, an American citizen or not, there would be a delay in you getting that treatment. So it would be worse for everybody if they made it so that they had to check. And this was actually the case before the 1980s. I think it was Ronald Reagan, of all people, who brought in this law to say you have to treat everyone. And it wasn't because he loved migration. It's not because he loved Mexicans, not by a long chalk, but it was because there were delays in people getting critical first aid in a situation where, they were bleeding out because they were trying to discover whether they were, undocumented migrants or not. And if you're unconscious and it's like, you don't have your fucking ID card on you, like, what, are you supposed to die because someone else might get some healthcare in that first response? But that's the attitude, The thing is, the people pushing this, they know damn well they're going to be fine. They know absolutely they're going to be fine. Tan sent me something this morning that said, rich, networked, privileged, and well-fed people are not necessarily the best to be invited to govern those who are not. And I can't get that out of my mind. It's so good. Listen to it again. Rich, networked, privileged, and well-fed people are not necessarily the best to be invited to govern those who are not. And you are now seeing a network of the richest, the most well-networked, the most privileged in history, and the most well-fed people in history. Look at the size of Trump, Jesus. Actually deciding how first aid should be administered to people who are unconscious on the street, who've like fallen out of a fucking window or been hit by a semi-truck. There's and this is the thing, like, that most conservatives can't understand because they've got a fucking pea brain. I mean, these people are really thick, as well as being ugly. They just can't get it through their stupid fucking head that if they fuck things for one part of society, they fuck things for everyone. And I think this is a really good example. You say that we've got to check the ID of everyone who's bleeding who's been shot in America, and then lose those precious seconds, minutes, maybe an hour while you look them up on a computer system. If you're going to waste that time and they're going to die as a result of that, that's not a great system, is it, for anyone? That's not a great system. But this is the system they want. And now the American government is shut down because the Democrats are like, we don't want all these people losing Medicaid and Medicare. And the Republicans are like, no, this is great. Let's do it. Let's absolutely do it. Chris C, the second super chat of the week. Thank you very much for the £2, mate. Healthcare should be a basic human right. Yep. I couldn't agree more. Along with water. Along with fucking water and warmth. And the right to having a fucking family. And the right to be able to marry the person that you love and loves you. That they should be like that. That should be a human right to leave where you are if you think you're going to fucking get killed for no reason. I'm not talking about criminals running away from the law. I'm talking about refugees. I'm talking about asylum seekers who, if they stay where they are, they will be tortured and murdered by their own state. Yeah, fine. You can move. You can go somewhere else. You can come here if you want. That should be a human right, and it is. And it drives the people around here who've got nothing. They've got nothing. This is an old fucking pit village, right? The Tories, the posh, inbred Tories of the 1980s, closed down all the mines because they were unprofitable, and profit is everything. And, from a health point of view, great, good. I don't want people working down mines. It's a shit, horrible job. It's pulling fucking carbon out the ground and we burn it, and that's not good for the environment either. And it's toxic, and it's polluting, and it's disgraceful, and it's poison. We're poisoning the air. We're poisoning the water. We're poisoning our lives. We're poisoning our bodies, right? However, there was nothing to replace it. there was no industries around here that got put here by the Tories in the 1980s or encouraged by the Tories in the 1980s to replace the coal mines. And so, yeah, there was fuck all retraining that went on. And then they blamed the miners who knew nothing but fucking mining for not retraining as plumbers or electricians or as a, I don't know, firefighter or something. They blamed them for not, being proactive enough when the jobs weren't here. The jobs weren't here. I get a bit prickly. I know I'll make my own jokes about Liverpool, right? But I do get a bit prickly when people say, "Oh, you got no jobs. You got no jobs." Actually, right? Yeah, there's a grain of truth in that. In the 1970s, the population of Liverpool almost halved in just a space of a few years because shipbuilding closed down. The docks were consolidated from over 100 different docks that we had to just two. One up at Seaforth and one down in Garston. Effectively, I know there's a couple more that do scrap metal and stuff, but generally speaking, the number of jobs that were available to dock workers just went off a cliff. And so people left. They didn't stay there claiming the dole and sitting on the couch and playing the 70s version of PlayStation, which I think was swinging parties. But they didn't do that. They got off. They got on their bikes. Was it Tebbit who said that? Norman Tebbit. They got on their fucking bikes and they moved elsewhere. And that's why you see such a massive Scouse diaspora. It's all over not just all over the country, but all over the world. I met Scousers whose parents moved in the 70s and 80s out of Liverpool because there were no jobs there. And what did the Tories want to do? They wanted to put us into managed decline. That was their plan. And everything they do, everything the Tories do, smacks of a lack of empathy. And I think that the major criticisms that we have over this new Labour government and things that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and that dickhead bloody Wes Streeting have done, right, smacks of a lack of empathy. It doesn't seem like they actually care. And unfortunately for Keir Starmer, well, actually, unfortunately for the rest of us, he can't even sound like he cares. That's a big failing of Keir Starmer. Because he sounds like Roger Irrelevant reading a shopping list, he just doesn't come across as actually giving a shit about stuff. I know he tries, and his speech last week was a lot better than we've seen in previous Labour conferences. But at the same time, it's like, if you really care, Keir, then show it. Don't say it. Show it in the policies that your government is pushing for. But we're living in a very right-wing world at the moment. The right wing are on the ascendancy. In America, they control the presidency, the House of Representatives, the Senate. They control the FBI, the CIA. They control the fucking judiciary over there. It's overwhelmingly right-wing now. And we can't let the same thing happen here. And we have to keep pointing out, I don't think it works with these people that, we want to vote for refuck that Farage it doesn't, lacks empathy. I don't think they'll care about that because I think that a lot of them lack empathy themselves. But pointing out the hypocrisy, pointing out that we just had, the former refuck leader of Wales, Nathan Gill, being done for effectively treason. This guy was paid by a hostile foreign state to say nice things about that hostile foreign state. And if you think that he's the only refuck politician who's in that situation, I've got a bridge to sell you. The leader of our council, Andrew Husband, here in Durham, right? He's a bankrupt. His last company went bump with him owing £1 million to the taxpayer, to the inland revenue, to his investors. And I don't think he'll be allowed to run as an MP. We've got a leader of a council that would not be, by British law, be allowed to run as an MP. How mad is that? Di, thank you very much for the £20 super chat. That's very kind of you, my friend. Look at that. Here's a few bob. Oh, thank you. That's a lot of bobs. Thank you. Don't hear that very often now, do you? It was 5p on it, a bob. Or shilling, which was 12p in old money. Paula, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. My favourite Nye Bevan quote: "No society can legitimately call itself civilised if a sick person is denied medical aid because of lack of means." Yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with you and Nye Bevan. You're absolutely right. But the thing is, like, going back to my point about helping people out who are in distress, unconscious, bleeding in the streets, trying to identify who they are and whether they deserve help, that shouldn't come into it. One of the few people to be given two Victoria Crosses was a guy called Noel Chevese. He was a doctor in World War I, and he famously used to go over the top of the trenches to give medical aid and medical support to the soldiers that were scattered about in no man's land with various injuries. And he risked his life on so many occasions to do this. And note that I said soldiers, because he didn't just do this for the British. He didn't just do this for the French and the Yanks when they finally turned up. No, he did it for the German soldiers as well. If he found a German soldier in distress, he would go and give medical aid to them. And Chevese Park in Liverpool, which is the bit between Liverpool 1 and the Albert Dock, that's named after Noel Chevese. And that's the Hippocratic Oath. Hippocratic Oath. That's the Hippocratic Oath right there, do no harm. And you look after, you don't turn someone face down the sheet, turn them over and see they look a bit Mexican. They might look a bit Hispanic and go, I'm not going to administer any aid to you now. That's just wrong on so many levels. And also it's incredibly racist. Because don't you, in reality, that the white people will get the aid straight away. If you're not white, then there you go. Have a little bit more shit you've got to put up with that white people don't even fucking think about. Chevese went to Liverpool College. Yeah, that's what upset and angered me the most about Manchester attacks. Instead of rendering aid to those injured, the public just whipped out their phones and started recording. How disgusting. Yeah, and that's one of the horrible things about life at the moment in this country, is that people are more like, oh, I can get clicks out of this, rather than helping another human being clearly in distress. Peter says, Starmer, great lawyer, lousy politician, poor PM, too much controlled and influenced by McSweeney, lousy policies. Peter, there are some good policies. I'm going to defend them a little bit. I'd say it's a mixed bag. And there are some policies that I just venomously disagree with. There's some policies that I just don't understand why they are not pursuing with the fervor of an evangelical convert to the cause. I don't understand why they're not doubling down on net zero and saying, we are going to reduce your bills by £500 and this is how we're going to do it. We need to stop being completely dependent on foreign oil. That's what we need to do. And when the Tories and refuck say we need to get our own shale fucking oil, shale gas from Blackpool, by causing mini earthquakes. We need to get all this oil from the Rosebank, oil reserves in reserves. That's not the right word for it. Deposits, is it? Oil deposits in the North Sea. And you're looking at it going, that's not going to make our bills come down. Can someone explain to the layman that's not going to make our bills come down, because we pay the same as every other country? We pay the OPEC set rates, and we're not an OPEC. Saudi Arabia is. They can decide how much our fuel's going to be. We can't. Same with people refusing to perform CPR because they are worried they'll be sued if they break the person's ribs. That is bullshit. It's only happened in the US and not the UK. I don't think it's ever happened. I think it's one of those mad things where, there was one particular case where someone who could not administer CPR attempted it and made a bad situation worse, maybe. But yeah, this never happened in the UK. Billy Kershaw says, Graham, Durham CAB Citizens Advice Bureau have gone to groundworks. Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but judge a society by how it treats its prisoners. Yeah, Chris, I think that was someone in the Victorian era who said that. And it's very true. It's very true. Might have been Elizabeth Fry, Someone should look that up. Does someone want to look up who actually said that? If it was Elizabeth Fry, I'm going to take 10 points. Joanna, I have to admit, over the last few days, I've learned that most people are helpful. Each time I was laying on the floor, looking under the car for the cat, someone would walk up and ask if I was okay. Yeah, and Joanna, you're absolutely right as well. The fact that I keep saying this, one of the things that keeps me buoyed, keeps me kind of like cheery in the mornings and stuff, is the fact that I've met so many wonderful people in my life, and I just try really hard to keep that in mind. Most people are good. Most people want to help. But in situations like crisis situations, people talk about fight or flight, yeah. But there's a third position that humans put themselves in, which is freeze. And when something traumatic happens and they don't know how to deal with it because they've not thought about it before, they haven't developed a schema in their head of what to do in this particular situation. This happens a lot with plane crashes. So with plane crashes, a lot of the time, people survive the actual impact with the ground. The airplanes are built in such a way, especially if they're landing on sea, they're built in such a way that they can land, even if it's a crash landing. Most people, the majority of people survive. It might only be a slender majority, but it is a majority. The problem is people don't get out of the plane fast enough because people freeze. They just don't know what's going on. Their brain is flooded with adrenaline. They can't think logically. People have real trouble taking off the buckles of their seatbelt because they're pressing it. Like you press your seatbelt for the car when you're in a car, and they haven't thought of like where the exit is, and obviously the fuselage is filling full of smoke, thick toxic smoke. You can't see beyond your hand, so you have to remember you have to have counted how many seats there were to the exits, and that's why the stewards on planes are so important, because they'll be the people who can hopefully shake you out of that mindset of being frozen. It doesn't happen to everyone, but being frozen in place, like you're being overwhelmed by the situation, and when someone barks an order at you, you will do that order. So they say, get up, get out. That's what people will actually do, but you need the stewards to do that. You need someone to do that. If someone's sitting next to you, you need to do that for the person sitting next to you. But yeah, so the way people respond to crisis situations shouldn't be taken as read as the way that the human condition. I would say the human condition is that people want to help, and I do find it absurd, the idea, and I'm sorry if I'm going to offend any religious people watching this. I do find it absurd that the idea that until the moment where Moses went up Mount Sinai and was given these 2 tablets by God, which said, had the 10 commandments carved onto them, and number 6, I think, was thou shalt not kill, right? Up to that point, they had functioned as a society. Moses' people had functioned as a society, functioned as a coherent group, not knowing that murder was wrong. And that to me is just absolutely bonkers. It especially considering in the 1930s when an Australian gold prospector, Mick Lay, found 1 million people living up in the Papua New Guinean highlands, 1 million people that we didn't know existed, 1 million people who were living in the Stone Age. They had the same rule. Like, they weren't converted to Christianity and then had the rule. They had that rule already, magically. Confucius said, do unto others as you would like people to be done to you. The golden rule, a version of it, 1,000 years before Jesus said it. And Buddha said something very, very similar as well. Like, how do these ideas come up independently if we get a lot of morality from this, the Godhead? But I mean, because it's not just morality we're talking about here. It makes no fucking sense for a society to function in a way that allows for murder and allows for stealing off people and allows for all this other stuff like that societies generally make rules about. And yeah, they might go and have a war against a neighboring tribe or city or country. They might do that, but their own, they go, no, we can't be murdering each other because then our society will fall apart very quickly. And it doesn't take a genius to work that one out. I think it's quite patronising of the inventor of the universe to give that one as a one of the commandments. I think we could have taken that as read. Just poor old Moses standing there looking at these tablets, going, "Fucking hell, we're not supposed to murder each other." Oh, damn! Wish someone had told us earlier. I got up this morning and murdered fucking 3 people before breakfast because it's just what I thought you were meant to do. Yeah. So yeah, breaking news, water bills are set to rise again next year, says Chris. Groundwork offer a lot of advice similar to CAB, but at least here in Lincolnshire, I don't think we're to replace CAB. They're still a big help. Colin says, didn't she end up getting executed because the authorities consider an enemy soldiers as treason? Her treatment of enemy soldiers of treason. By the way, there was a film about her starring Anna Nigel. I can honestly, I think you're talking about, who are you talking about there? Elizabeth Fry. Jack Russell says, I can honestly say I came to the aid of a gentleman who had a stroke. The cars just passed by him at the side of the road. I got his push bike home, stayed until the ambulance arrived. He's well, by the way. Oh, that's fantastic that you stayed with him, Jack. Thanks for doing that. There is also that phenomenon where people see that someone's helping and they go, well, there's someone helping, so I'll leave it. That does happen as well. Acro Dave, if most people are good and kind, how is it that we always put a shiny hat on the very worst of us? Because the way that capitalism works, it rewards people for being shits. It rewards people for the worst aspects, the greed, the 7 deadly sins, the avarice, the lust for power and more money and more money and money. It rewards sociopaths, it rewards psychopaths, and that's why they rise to the top in a capitalist system. And that's why we need to start looking towards a more cooperative system. And I'm going to use the word socialist because obviously people go, oh, it means different things to different people, but something that is more to do with the cooperation of people rather than this oligarchy, which is top down, which is the rich, the nepo babies, the born rich, the privately educated, telling the rest of us what to do. Anyway, so just a couple of things about. I want to go back to just Trump for a moment because this is what I wanted to talk about just for the start of the show today. And I know we're already halfway through, more than halfway through, but whatever. He put out a deep fake of himself sitting in the Oval Office announcing MedBed cards for every American. And with it, he says, you'll have a guarantee to access our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation. And the MedBed conspiracy is a fringe belief in QAnon circles that elites possess miraculous healing beds that can cure cancer, regrow limbs, and resurrect the dead. And conspiracists claim that Trump is bringing these miraculous things to the people. And I mean, he's either trolling the public or he's completely detached from reality. And when asked about it, Caroline Levitt, the fucking weird woman who does the press stuff for Trump, fucking psycho Barbie, she said, it's his social media. He likes to share memes and videos. It's refreshing. And, the reality is, she's saying, we've got no control over him. This is fine. Drinking the coffee. I was talking about Edith Cavell being executed. Oh, thanks, Colin, for clearing that up. Sorry, I didn't see the earlier message. It's sometimes difficult because there's so many messages coming up. And there's like a message that's the second half of a message that's come up earlier. And I lose the thread a little bit. So, and you really don't want me just staring at the screen like this for 10 minutes trying to find me place. So thanks very much for explaining that. And thanks very much for the super chat, mate. That's really kind of you. Edith Cavell. If you believe in an alien med bed, I've got another bridge to sell you. Yeah. And there was a clip of that Trump shared of House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero and a mustache set to mariachi music, and then when people complained about it, he posted a picture of himself in a sombrero, and this is like during a government fucking shutdown. Like serious politics. This is during this big effort apparently to end the conflict between Gaza, between Hamas and Israel. Well, I say conflict is more of a one-sided boxing match, isn't it? It reminds me of that Monty Python sketch where it's the grown man in the ring just punching a little girl over and over. The Tylenol autism thing, which we talked a bit about last week. I mean, there's he said about, he talked about paracetamol or Tylenol causing autism in children, which is an absolute nonsense. It's like saying that aspirin causes left-handedness. But he said there are certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby. And one of the points about this, and I did touch on this last week, is that the thing that they're offering, the supplement that doesn't work, that they're offering, the placebo that they're offering pregnant women, right, it is made by the company that Dr. Oz is a big shareholder of, the supplements company, the medical supplements. It's always a grift. It's always a grift. And I just, then we've got the whole thing of getting all the military generals from around the world to come to this meeting in Virginia, where him and Pete Hegseth went on about, Trump rambled incoherently about stairs and Obama's bobbing down and the beauty of gold fittings. I mean, just yeah. And then, the fucking, when he was asked about the mass shootings at a Mormon church in Michigan, he posted about the 24 karat gold fixtures in the Oval Office, saying, foreign leaders freak out when they see the quality and beauty, best Oval Office ever. Taste is something that I don't know if it can be learned. But man, he likes his fucking tat. He likes his chintz. He likes his 1970s African brutal tin pot dictator aesthetic. If he had his way, he'll dress up as a general, with the one with all the fucking the medals coming all the way off to the side. Yeah, he'll have that, wouldn't he? And Madeleine Dean, sorry, the congresswoman has said the president is unhinged. He's unwell, and that's not her being partisan. That's just an observation. As James O'Brien never tires of saying that. That's just counting. It's just it is a plunge into madness. But he is the godhead of this movement, this MAGA movement, and they will follow him into the valley of death. They will follow him and they will drink the Kool-Aid. And this is why I think this is the end of America as we know it. I saw a chart yesterday, and it was countries that trade more with America or trade more with China. And it was 2001, and nearly all of Africa traded more with America, all of Asia, all of South America, certainly. And then it showed 2024, and these countries trade loads more with China now, because China's given them the stuff they want. If you're living in a developing country, what do you want? Well, you just want to live a nice, quiet life, and you would like to have cheap food, you'd like to have cheap clothes, and you'd like to have cheap housing. That's what you're after. America can offer none of those things. And saying that Britain can offer none of those things. So if we're going to sack off the EU and trade with other countries around the world, we're not going to be able to provide the things that these people want in these countries. And the thing with America is, if it wasn't for greed, they could go toe to toe with China when it comes to manufacturing. They'll still have the factories there, right? That would allow them to automate, use AI, do all this stuff to drive down the prices of these commodities. But they don't have the infrastructure anymore. They can't do it. The only three countries really now that still build ships at any kind of scale is Japan, and that's declining, and North and South Korea and China. And basically most ships are now being built in China because they've got the facilities set up. America doesn't anymore. They closed down the factories. They closed all this stuff down because it was cheaper to make abroad, because the CEOs of these companies wanted a slightly bigger yacht that year, to use for a few days a year, even though it costs $500,000 to maintain each year. But, they needed that yacht. They needed those private jets. They didn't just need one private jet. They need 7 private jets, one for each color of the rainbow, depending on which day of the week it is. They needed that, so the factories had to shut down in America and they had to be moved to elsewhere. Now Trump's saying, "Oh, we're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States by way of tariffs. We're going to make everything more expensive, and that's going to work." And I'm just like, no, that's just not the way it works, Especially if it's not something that people need. If something's cheap and plentiful enough, people will buy it. But if it costs twice as much as it should, and that's the only option because the imported stuff costs twice as much as it should because of the tariffs that have been slapped on it, people are just going to make do and mend. You're going to have austerity again. And what happens when you have austerity, as I keep saying over and over again? Money just stops. The flow of money stops. Look at how the British economy didn't grow during those austerity years, and then along came Brexit and actually plunged our economy into decline, a decline that is barely being arrested to this day, 10 years later. Joanna says, I got myself a Prezi as well, trying to cheer myself up. Got the Winwing Airbus MCDU for my flight simming. Oh, that's really cool, Joanna. Our beautiful friend Rachel, she does flight simming as well. She's really into her flight sims. Chris says, there is a story about Liverpool 14-year-old lad being denied access to the toilet during lessons, even though he has a medical condition, and a letter from Alder Hay. That's fucking mental. That is crazy. I read about that in school, at the kids' school, that they're not allowed to go to the toilet during lessons. So what? If you come on your period and you're not allowed to go to this unless you stand up in front of the whole fucking class and explain why you've got to go because you forgot to wear a sanitary towel that morning. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous. And they do this because kids vape in the toilets and they want to stop them vaping and they want to stop them swinging the lead and missing lessons and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, there were some times when you fucking need to go to the toilet, especially as a kid. And to deny children that is just torture. It's just cruel. It's something that you do to prisoners if you don't like them very much. But the way that the education system in this country has just gone backwards in so many ways since I was in school, which is maddening. It's so maddening. The fact that you can't go on holiday to some, to Herculaneum to learn about the fate of Herculaneum and Pompeii in term time. That the decision to let you do that does not no longer rest with the school anymore. No longer rests with the head teacher, which I think it should do, or at least they should have a thing in place to say, if you are taking your kid out of school so you can get a cheaper holiday, we're not going to stand for that. But if you're taking your kid out of school to take them to Stonehenge, then yeah, we can have a discussion. But it should be up to the school, not the government. The other thing is that I was taken out of school. I've still got my piece of the Berlin Wall, and that that journey, that trip in 1990 to these to East Germany, to Czechoslovakia, to Hungary, to Poland. I mean, that was very, very a huge formative part of my development, of my formative part of my childhood, because it got me into both politics and it got me into travel. There you go, 2 birds, 1 stone. And what am I known for now? Being a twat. But apart from that, politics and travel. The other thing is the way that we've gone backwards when it comes to coursework. It's now all 100% exams. You're looking at the English exams that are 100% exams. It's on the day. What if you're ill? What if something bad's happened that day? What if you come on your period on that day? Of course, 2 very rich, very privileged white men like Dominic Cummings and Michael Gove aren't going to consider that when they're putting together this syllabus that only state schools have to follow. Don't forget the schools that they went to and the schools that they probably send their horrible little crotch spawn off to. They don't have to follow the same curriculum. They can follow any curriculum they like because they're private schools. Actually, I know that Michael Gove did not send his kids to private school, but Dominic Cummings probably will. Having worked in schools recently, if a kid is genuine need of the toilet, they will be allowed out. It's those kids that clearly texting their mate and waiting outside the class that stay. Yeah, I get that, Sonic Shadow. Teachers think they know better than medical professionals. Teachers are there to educate, not be the toilet Gestapo. Even employers wouldn't ban staff from accessing the toilets. Yeah, but Chris, I think that Sonic Shadows makes a good point as well on this. Like, there will be kids who'll swing the lead, so it should be up to the individual teacher to make an executive decision on that. I'm saying that the decision shouldn't always be necessarily you've got to wait to the end of the lesson to use the toilet. And then at primary school, I had a bitch of a teacher who wouldn't let me go to the toilet. I ended up peeing my pants and all over the floor. Says Lee, I'm sorry, mate. You see that there's some trauma right there that stays with you your whole life, and that teacher can fuck off. Like you never forget a good teacher. That's what they say, isn't it? Yeah, and you never forgive a bad one. I had a shit maths teacher when I was in school. A fucking shit maths teacher, and I was in the top set. I fucking loved maths. I had a very sort of mathematical brain. I could get my head around it. And then in my GCSE years, I had this fucking awful teacher who could not explain anything. He just couldn't explain, like, why. And that's the whole point of maths. It was like someone just went 2 and 2 equals 4. And you put your hand up and you go, why? And they go, because 2 and 2 equals 4. And you're like, yeah, but why? And so when they give you 4 plus 4, you can't work it out because you don't know why 2 plus 2 equals 4. You have no idea where you're going next. I know that's simplified, but that's what it was like. It was like, this is the answer to this particular question. This is the answer to this particular sum. This is the answer to this particular equation. But he couldn't explain why. And as a result, I did shit in my maths. I got a B. Like, I shouldn't have got a B in my maths in GCSE. I should have got an A star. But it was because I got a shit teacher. I got a shit teacher, and I'll never forgive him. But there you go. But in another way, you know, because I had a really good teacher for politics and history in A level, I ended up pursuing that into university. Chris says, I agree. However, there's confirmed medical need backed up with a doctor's letter that should override the teacher. Yeah. Absolutely. In that case, Chris, you're absolutely right. Dave says, I lived in Berlin as a child. I remember the juxtaposition of the West compared with the East. It left a permanent mark on me. It is really odd, Dave. Like, I was in Berlin 20 years ago visiting my mate Thomas over there, who was from East Berlin. And he gave me a tour of the city, and it was really fascinating. Got to see these buildings that have been rebuilt since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But he was talking about the attitude of people in the east of the country, and he said, well, you got to understand that, like, there was no complexity. It was a very simple life. You did as you were told, and if you didn't, you got sent to a gulag, right, or killed. So you just did what you were told. So it was a paranoid life. I would say it was a shit life, but at least you knew where the meals were coming from. At least you knew you'll get money at the end of the day. Not much money, but you'd get money at the end of the day no matter what. There was 100% employment. There were people who were employed to dig a hole, and then the next day they were employed to fill the fucking hole in because it was 100% employment. That was just the way that the communists ran it. But he was talking, this is 20 years ago, he was talking about the fact that people in the East are more likely to be right-wing because they want that certainty back. They want that simplicity. And if you look at the way that the world is at the moment, you can explain a lot in just 3 simple words, right? Flight from complexity. Have a think about that. Have a think about how complex life has become. Like, we never used to get fucking news every day of like every second of every day. Every time we looked at our phone, breaking news, being told what's happened, going on somewhere in some far-flung corner of the world. We didn't have that. You know, if something bad happens on the other side of the planet, we wouldn't find out about it for 2 weeks, and then it would be at the in the middle pages of the Times. Like, we are inundated now with information like never before. We know more about the universe. It's not a simple thing of there's just 4 elements, fire, water, I don't know, Leaf Pokemon. There's now 118 named elements. That's a lot, and they're all, the way they all interact with each other is incredibly complex. Medicine isn't a case of just picking up some leaves and rubbing it on your wound anymore. We're entering the realm of immunotherapy and gene editing, and it does seem very, very complex. And when you're a kid, things are a lot simpler. Even video games, when I was a kid, like Manic Miner, it was only made up of about 16 fucking blocks. Whereas now, you've got these amazing 3D photorealistic graphics in these games. And wait till Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. It's going to be insane. It's going to blow your mind. And that is showing the complexity that's developed in my lifetime in video games. And I get that there is this desire to go back to when things seemed simpler. And when did things seem simpler? When you were a kid. Things seemed really simple when you were a kid. You didn't have to worry about paying the rent or making the mortgage repayments. You didn't have to worry about keeping your job. You didn't have to worry about any of that shit. You just woke up, you were given food, you went to school, you saw your mates, you pissed around, you came home, you were given more food, you went to bed. Some shit things might have happened when you were a kid. Lots of people had to deal with childhood trauma. But generally speaking, life, even with that trauma, was a lot more simple than it is when you're an adult. And what these spivs do, what these chancers, these gobshites like Nigel Farage and Trump and Erdogan and fucking Bolsonaro and Duterte and all these fucking populist scumbags, they offer simplicity. They offer simple solutions to complex problems. All the problems in your life, your coffee's cold, your dog's died, your wife's left you, it's all the fault of immigrants. It's all the fault of trans people. It's all the fault of this group, and if we just get rid of that group, then you'll be sound. Same thing the little mustache man did in Germany in the 1930s. He told everyone in Germany that all their troubles were caused by Jews, and if we just got rid of their Jews, all their troubles would be gone. A nice simple solution to a complex problem, which is that life is complex. Shit happens. And it's also why conspiracy theorists and conspiracy theories are so abound so much, because they want to give a simple solution to the world. They want to say that things are controlled. They want that illusion of control, even if it's nefarious. But the reality is, as Alan Moore pointed out, the world is rudderless. No one knows what they're doing. Everyone's making it up as they go along. And it's worth remembering that. Paula, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. It's very, very kind of you. Graham, the proof that 1 + 1 = 2 takes up 300 pages of Principia Mathematical, so your teacher deserves a little sympathy. Principia, is that Isaac Newton's work? He took up 300 pages to say 1 + 1 = 2. What a nutter. Lee says, most video games these days look amazing, but the game mechanics are mostly the same as the 8-bit era. Time your jumps or exactly or fall to your death. Solve the puzzle, find 15 of these random things. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They look amazing, but underneath, they're still the same. They're still Jet Set Willy. They're still Chucky Egg. It's just Chucky Egg with better graphics. Acro Dave says, I used to be Judge Dredd, and there was a syndrome called Future Shock caused by the pressure of living in the future. It came true. They used to do a strip called Future Shock, didn't they? That was a strip in its own right, and it was a bit like Black Mirror. It told like a different story each week of like something happening in the future. And my favorite one that always stuck in my head was this gambler who was addicted to gambling, and he ended up selling off his body parts, and so he sold off his arm, and then his other arm, and he sold off his like internal organs, and they kept getting replaced or whatever, and then eventually he was just like a head. He was just like a head. With like some kind of robotic stuff around the neck trying to keep him alive. And he ended up betting his head and he lost the bet and he ended up dead. And the joke at the end was, quit while you're ahead. Anyway, 2000 AD, ladies and gentlemen. It made me laugh then, and it still makes me titter to this day. Whenever I think of gambling, I always think of quitting when you're ahead. He's sold off he's gambled off all his other body parts. And he's just ahead, and then he loses. Principia Mathematica by Bertrand Russell and Alfred Whitehead. Okay, fair enough. Not the one by. I thought it was just called Principia. By Isaac Newton, who was this great mathematician until one day I think he just drank too much fucking lead or mercury or something, and he decided to become an alchemist. People don't talk about that too much, do they? Lee says, and they make games take longer to play by making you grind through the levels. I've given up on most modern games except driving games and flight sims. Yeah. Alan Moore got his start writing Future Shock short strips. Maybe that was one of Alan Moore's. Maybe that was one of Alan's. The comic writer genius. Well, I should say graphic novel writing genius. That is Alan Moore, the guy behind Watchmen, and which honestly I really recommend the TV series of Watchmen. I know it had nothing to do with Alan Moore, but I think Dave Gibbons was involved in it. He was the artist who did Watchmen. But yeah, Alan Moore from Hell and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is a great comic strip. It's a terrible film. And V for Vendetta, which I think becomes more and more oh my god, like, you know, it becomes more and more of a thing each year, more and more sort of realistic. Pertinent. We use the word pertinent. It becomes more and more pertinent every year. Captain Coconut. I remember reading 2001 AD. What's that? A comic story about sentient drone dispatched to kill everyone, but being sentient, the drone attempted to stay alive. However, they had a kill switch. Yeah. Can remember driving edition, etc. using lambda calculus at uni. Computer science was fun. Let's prove addition. That's from Joanna. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like learning to. When you're doing your GCSEs, it should be like learning to drive, you know? You don't need to necessarily know how to deconstruct the engine and put it back together again. If you're going to do mathematics for university, yeah, you need to learn that. That's part of doing mathematics university. But just being able to press the pedal down and knowing when the bike point is and changing gears and stuff, that should be your GCSEs, right? The TV series of Watchmen did have some good ideas. Hooded Justice being black for one. I thought it was really good. Acro Dave, I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it shone a light on the Tulsa race massacre of, I think, 1921, which doesn't get talked about too much. But in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the time, there was this thriving black community, a black Wall Street. They were making loads of money. They were doing really well. And white racists, Ku Klux Klan, supported by the authorities, literally just firebombed this entire area of the city and murdered the black people who lived there or drove them out. They bombed their own city with planes in the night. This happened in, I think, 1921. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to give you misinformation. Tulsa race massacre. Yeah, 1921. And it was the Greenwood area of Tulsa, the Greenwood district, a 2-day-long terrorist, white supremacist massacre, which was just absolutely horrific, with, you know, at least 200 black people were killed, you know, maybe up to 300, 800 injured. And this was a white mob that was backed by the state, because these black people were doing too well. Somebody said during the protest, the riots against what happened to shit, hang on a sec. The Black Lives Matter protests. Yeah. Oh, I was looking that up because George Floyd. Sorry, I was trying to remember who said "I can't breathe," and it wasn't George Floyd. It was actually said by Eric Garner, who was put in a chokehold by a New York City cop. I thought that was right because the I can't breathe. Obviously, that's kind of associated first and foremost with George Floyd, but it wasn't him who said it. Sorry, I had to look that up because I had some inkling in the back of my head. I was going to say the George Floyd, I can't breathe, but the protest, the Black Lives Matter protest, which was met by white people saying all lives matter, which is just okay, whatever, mate. But there was a woman who was interviewed for one of the news channels, and she made this really eloquent point about what it's like being black in America. And she said it's like there's a game of Monopoly and people have been playing it for 200 years. White people have been playing it for 200 years and they own every square and every hotel and every house. And basically they go, okay, you've got equality now, and they give you the dice and they say, go and roll. And you've got nothing. You're like, okay, you roll the dice and you land on a hotel. That's what it's like. And whenever black people have actually got together and been able to push for anything, there's been this huge white backlash. I don't think that Trump would have won the 2016 election had it not been for President Obama, because the white people felt threatened and they were like, oh shit, we need to retreat into our vast whiteness, which is really grim. This is really grim. But I thought that was a really fantastic metaphor, the Monopoly game. That's been, you come in late to a Monopoly game. And that's what a lot of white people don't understand when we talk about white privilege. I really do feel like we need a better slogan than that, than white privilege, because it makes people who live around here, who, Durham is hashtag Durham so white, and that's why they vote refuck, because the idea of black people is weird to them, I guess. But this is a very white community around here. A lot of white people hear the words white privilege, and they're living in a one up one down terraced house in a pit village with fuck all prospects. They can't afford a car. They can just about keep the heating going during, for a couple of hours in the morning. And then they go, I'm not privileged. I'm not privileged, because they're comparing themselves to people who are born in castles and palaces and go to private school and have all these connections and fly around on private jets, like Nigel Farage. They're comparing themselves to them rather than thinking about the privilege of not. It's the absence, isn't it? It's the absence of prejudice. The privilege of not having to put in twice as many applications for a job just because you've got a foreign sounding name or a black sounding name. The privilege of not having to worry about being stopped and searched by the police just because of the colour of your skin. The privilege of not being picked on, discriminated against, have racial abuse hurled at you, not have medical racism used against you, not having the assumption that you are stupid, something that people still to this day think that black people aren't as intelligent as white people, which is just a racist theory, which isn't true, demonstrably not true, time and time again. And you have people like that bloke who got shot dead a couple of weeks ago, who said things like, if I have a black pilot, I'm worried. If I have a black surgeon, because obviously they're underqualified and they've stolen some white person's job. And I'm like, black pilot, mate, they've got a shortage of pilots in America. So, anyone who passes those grades, if they are black, if they are a woman, they are more likely to have had to fight harder and be better than all of the white people who didn't have the same privilege, who had the privilege, that the black person didn't have. And this is a difficult thing for people to swallow. When you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And that goes to people around here who feel like they haven't got much. Yeah, but you got the colour of your skin, mate. That gives you a one-up on other people who live around here who have more melanin than you. It's as simple as that. So we need a better word than privilege to describe this phenomenon. If anyone wants to come up with some ideas in the chat, that'll be great. Tulsa Race Massacre. 31st of the 5th, 21 to 1st of the 6th, 21. I remember because by coincidence my father was born on the second of those days and is still alive. Wow, your dad's having a good innings, Paula. Bloody hell. I was 104 years old. Wow, well done. Sonic Shadow, I just finished God of War 2018. That's a very good game in my opinion. Not too long if you can get through the story with button mashing, but bosses take some effort and kill. Completed it with little effort. Yeah, I like stories, and this is why I sort of fell out of love with video games. I like stories. I love the point-and-click adventures of the 1990s, the Lucasfilm games. I like the story behind it. One of my favorite games of all time is Psychonauts, which was made by Tim Schafer, who was one of the guys behind a lot of the LucasArts adventure games. He worked on like Day of the Tentacle and Sam and Max and stuff like that. Yeah, just a phenomenal story. You know, even though the gameplay wasn't amazing at all times, the story was everything for me. And so a video game with a good story will take me in, but a video game where you're just mashing the buttons, it just doesn't do much for me. Like fighting games don't really do much for me. I'm just like, whatever, you know. Oh, you're dead. KO. Although, you know, finishing moves might be quite fun in Mortal Kombat. At the end of the day, I'll much rather play something that's quite immersive. That makes me feel like I'm part of a story that's going. My favorite LucasArts game of all time is Grim Fandango, which is just phenomenal. Like, just what a way to weave a story and transport you to another place, another time. It's set in the land of the dead, and you undergo the 4-year journey of the soul with Manny Calavera, who's based on Humphrey Bogart in various films, but particularly Casablanca. He's a cold-hearted man. He's just out for himself, but then by the end of it, he discovers, you know, that it's worth doing the right thing. And they're going to be a noble kid. And also, Grim Fandango's got the best sign-off line of any media, any book, any film, any video game, which is, if there's one thing I've learned over the last few years is, because he's asked, you know, are you scared what's going to happen, you know, once we go into the ninth underworld or whatever on the train. And he says, there's one thing I've learned is that nobody knows what's waiting at the end of the line, so you might as well enjoy the trip. My mantra. Yeah, Manny Calavera. At least one person watching this is feeling it with me, going, yes, Graham. Grim Fandango. Oh, I got several hours into Beneath the Steel Sky that crashed. Yeah, I loved that. I finished that game. That was based on sort of Blade Runner, wasn't it? It wasn't LucasArts though. That was another software company. Anyway, so I just want to go over to the papers now. What time is it? Oh God, I've been rabbiting on. This happens every morning, doesn't it? I just rabbit on. I give James O'Brien a run for his money with his monologues, but at least there's a little bit of a dialogue going on here because obviously I'm responding to your messages. There's a Psychonauts 2, you know. Yeah, I mean, I've not played it, and I kind of really want to, but I've got it in my head that I've got this bunch of things. This is so ADHD. I've got this bunch of things that I need to get done, right? And then once I get those things done, I'm going to have more time to just play video games, and that's the point where I'll start playing Psychonauts 2. But yeah, I really want to get into that. I want to play Psychonauts again, actually. I just fucking loved it. So creative, so imaginative. You got to go into people's minds and like help sort them out. And it's, and you know, come to terms with whatever it is that their problem is. It's very, very clever, very random, but like beautifully random. Like it all makes sense in the whole. But at the time when you're playing it, you're going, what the fuck did this come from? Why am I here? What is going on? But yeah, fantastic game. Anyway, so I'm going to head over to the papers now, if you don't mind. Papers. Reeves looks at budget tax hike on bank profits to raise billions. Woohoo! Yes. Celebrations! Yes! They're delivering. They are delivering. Are they delivering? I don't know. They're delivering. They're delivering. Go make the fucking animation go, you bastard. Oh. Anyway, sorry, I was gonna do a little flash animation then, but never mind. Not actual flash because no one uses that anymore. The Fall of the House of York. This is the Duke and Duchess of York. The laying low after the Epstein scandal. It should fucking lay you a lot lower than that, my friends. What's that? What happened in the French Revolution? What did we do with them? I can't remember. It was a long time ago. And there was this weird story here from Victoria Derbyshire on the left of the screen. My cure for empty nest? Tracking my son's location. All right, Vicky, you nutter. Anyway, let's get into this. Reeves looks at budget tax hike on prank profits to raise billions. This is Chancellor is considering higher taxes on banks to help fill a hole in the UK's public finances. Treasury officials examine an increase in the existing surcharge as well as an entirely new levy in order to raise at least $2 billion from the financial services industry. The government refuses to confirm or deny. I love that. It sounds like something from a movie, doesn't it? We refuse to confirm or deny this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so on the front of the Times here, we've got Grealish's winning touch, first for football. I don't know why it was a first, but essentially Everton beat Crystal Palace at the weekend, and it was very, very exciting. And Jack Grealish scored the winning goal in like the 93rd minute, I think. And Everton's streak, which I don't think is going to last too much longer because I think they're up against Man City next. But oh no, it's an away. It's away to Man City. They can lose that one. But anyway, they've not lost. They've not lost at their new stadium yet, which is sweet, isn't it? They will. But 2 wins and 2 draws. Anyway, they beat Crystal Palace. Which is nice. And then Trump warns Hamas of obliteration as negotiators fly to Egypt. So negotiators from Hamas from Palestine and from Israel are meeting in Cairo, but they're not actually meeting. Okay, so this is a bit of a weird thing. So that they're having what they call non-direct talks, which I think is a bit like, when you fall out with someone and you're in school and you say to a mutual friend, tell them I'm not talking to them. And then your mutual friend has to say, he says he's not talking to you. And then they say, okay, well, can you tell him that I don't care because he's a knob? And then they have to, I think that's the kind, they have to go from room to room, relaying the messages because it's not face to face. Sonic Shadow, don't get me wrong. Gao18 had a fantastic story. God of War, and there is skill. While slow level, you're just not able to tear through with an axe. Definitely look into God of War. I think you'll like it. Yeah, I think I would actually. I've seen stuff from God of War, and I thought that's the kind of thing that's up my street. But I started Psychonauts 2, got bored of the grind, says Lee. Oh, that's not a good review, is it? I got to say, by the way, songs. I wanted to mention songs. Obviously, the new Taylor Swift album came out on Friday. It's a bit mid. I said this the other day. It's a bit mid. But I tell you what is good. The new Ash album, Ad Astra. And I know that I've got vested interest in this because, I know them. But it's really, really good. They've got 2 collaborations with Graham Coxon out of Blur on it. And they're both brilliant. And there's one. It sounds like the maddest song ever. It sounds like late 90s Blur, but with a signature bit of Ash added to it, a bit of punky sort of, teenage pop Ash from the mid 90s. And it's called Fun People. And it's a really good song. I just love it. But at the moment, I'm particularly in love with a song that came out about 2 weeks ago, but I failed to mention it because I was traveling and stuff like that. But there's an artist called Paris Paloma, and she had a hit a couple of years ago, I think. I forgot what the fuck it was called now. Anyway, she's got a new song out. It's been out for a couple of weeks now called Good Boy, and it's about the patriarchy, and it's fucking amazing. It is. So watch it with the video. There's a YouTube video. So type in Paris Paloma good boy. But the video is fantastic. It's it's very, if you liked Saltburn, the aesthetic of Saltburn, if you liked the aesthetic of the holdovers, that sort of 1970s look to things, those sort of 1970s horrors, it's fantastic. It's really good. Cool. Good boy. Well worth checking out. 10 out of 10. No notes. It starts with Emma Thompson reading the words of the Guardian journalist this year who did an article which has been shared a million times because it's just bang on. It's like, I always expected, hang on, I'm gonna get this quote correct actually because I don't want to fuck it up. Sorry. There we go. This is a quote from Rebecca Shaw writing for The Guardian. I knew one day I'd have to watch powerful men burn the world down. I just didn't expect them to be such losers. So it starts with Emma Thompson, reading that, and then it goes into the song. It's chef's kiss. Honestly, really, really good. Well worth checking out. Sorry, a bit of a diversion there from video games and front pages of newspapers, but that's what you come to expect on this channel. The tangent channel. We've got Mahmoud, who's our new Home Secretary. Police could get power to ban protests, and this is to do with the protests at the weekend. The protesters were asked to delay their rally after the events in Manchester last week. And Shabana Mahmood has said that she wants to give police powers to ban protests outright, and saying that Jews are justified in asking for more from ministers. Right now, here's the thing. Right, I understand the desire to make it so that you're not making a bad situation worse. I completely get that. And I completely get that tomorrow there shouldn't be any kind of celebration in any way, shape, or form of what happened 2 years ago on October the 7th, right? This was a horrific day in world history, right? In the same way that I don't think that people should be allowed to go out and celebrate the fact that Israel went and bombed a load of fucking hospitals with kids in. I just don't think those things should be allowed to be celebrated. But there is an outside chance, still outside at the moment, but it's growing each day, that Farage might be our next Prime Minister. And what Labour will be doing is handing these oppressive powers to ban protests to Nigel Farage, the patriarchy, the oligarchy, the Russian fucking traitors, the ones being paid by Russia to fuck our country economically and socially and militarily. So that's not great. Then again, you could argue that once fucking Farage is in power, we don't have a written constitution. He can do what the fuck he likes, so he can bring in his own draconian rules. Who's going to stop him? Who is going to stop him? It's why we need to stop him. It's why we need to get Labour. We need to kick Labour into fucking gear so they stop being such irredeemable twats about a bunch of policies that they shouldn't be being twatty about, and get taxing the people who need to be taxed. My mate was the backup drummer for Ash, said he did a lot of recording for them when the drummer was having drug issues. Don't know how true that is. Might be. Rick has been sober now for, I think, 6 or 7 years. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do any drugs. He got into a really bad way, but he's a lot better now, and he's sober. But he did have issues there. But the band, they're very tight. They're really good mates still. They grew up together. Well, at least Mark and Tim did, and they look out for each other. They're good lads. They really are. There you go. Graham agreed they should not do that if Reform get into power. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm worried about. And Sean says, I'm not getting my rights. I'm not going to take my rights being removed being gay. From Sean, yeah, well, no one should accept their rights being fucking taken from them. But yeah, especially members of the LGBT community who have just had to put up with shit for centuries from the fucking the heteronormatives going, oh, not like that. Not like that. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing being with that person that you love? How dare you be turned on by that person and not this? I don't understand, like, people who are madly homophobic. Like, what's the problem, mate? Like, especially men who are homophobic. You want these very well groomed and very well dressed and very articulate and intelligent men of the homosexual community, and you want them to stop being gay and marry women. Does that mean fewer women for the the pot-bellied, god-awful, ugly, heteronormative troll that is someone who is homophobic in this day and age? Do you know what I mean? Does that mean less choice? Does that mean less choice of, which is going to be a little bit of Hobson's choice as it is, but I mean, oh my God, like, what are they thinking? They should have more of a problem with lesbians, really. They're taking away our women. They're stealing our women. It's like, all right, mate, calm down. I don't think they want you anyway. But yeah, this idea that you've got to be miserable. I think that's it. It's like people who are miserable want everyone else to be as miserable as they are. I think I'm the flip side of that. Like, I'm quite happy-go-lucky, and I want everyone to be as happy-go-lucky as I am, except for the people who are causing misery. And I think that you look at someone who's certainly a celebrity like J.K. Rowling, who's clearly miserable. Like, she's clearly made it, and it hasn't made her happy, and she hates that, and she doesn't know how to deal with it, and therefore she externalizes her self-loathing, and she puts it out to everyone else. She's not happy, so no one else can be happy. And we all know someone like this. We all know someone, and try not to be. Try and be the light in people's lives. Try and be the person who's, having a good time, and good times are infectious. They really are. Like, if you're in a situation and everyone's having, everyone's buzzing, everyone's having a great time, you're more likely to have a good time yourself. But yeah, there are some people out there, aren't there, who just want to watch the world burn, unfortunately. My privates are private. Stop thinking about my crotch, says Elle. Yeah, exactly. It's nothing to do with anybody else. And it's just weird and creepy with people who are obsessed with the crotches of people that they'll never fucking meet, never fucking know, and never have anything to do with. Like, J.K. Rowling's ever used a fucking public toilet since she became a billionaire. What do homophobes think will happen if they mix with gay people? I have loads of gay mates of both genders, and they're all ace. Well, they might enjoy it, They might get off with a bloke. They might do a bit more than that, and they might enjoy it, and that scares the shit out of them, because we live in a really, really anti, certainly my generation. We grew up with a Section 28 generation. We grew up being told there's something wrong with being homosexual, which there isn't. But and I think that's a thing that people are worried about, especially men. Because I think most people are bisexual, to be honest with you. I mean, there's very few people out there who are just like, I'm only turned on by women. That's it, 100%. There's a Kinsey scale. Is it the Kinsey scale or the Kesey scale? The one that Sex Doctor did in the 1950s. And like, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to say this wrong. I think it's 1 to 6, isn't it? Is it 1 to 7? Kinsey scale homosexuality. Okay, the Kinsey scale. The Kinsey scale. It's used to describe a person's sexual orientation based on one's experience at a given time. It goes up to 6. Okay, so 0 is exclusively heterosexual, and 0 is exclusively heterosexual, and 6 is exclusively homosexual, and most people are somewhere in between. And it changes through your lifetime. It changes through, and this is why I hate the labels of, you've got to be this or that or whatever. And you talk to younger people now, and they don't really care so much. There's a lot more fluidity in sexuality, and they might have a boyfriend, they might have a girlfriend. It's not seen as in the same way that it's like, okay, that defines your life now. And I hate it when people go, oh, but you're saying you're a lesbian, but now you've got a boyfriend, or you're saying you're gay, but now you've got a girlfriend. And it's like, yeah, it's the person that I like to be with. What's the problem? But you've got to be one or the other. And then you get these mad gatekeepers, and they're not just heterosexuals who do this as well. Gay people gatekeep against bisexuals quite a lot, more than they should. You got to make up your minds. It's like, why? You know, I might change your mind in 5 years' time. I might, want to be with a man. Might want to be with a woman. Whatever. So I'm going to head over to the papers now, and it ain't hot. Plum Duff, bad day for me. My son was beaten up and robbed. Britain is getting me down. I'm sorry, Britain's getting you down. Plum Duff, that's no good. We'll try and make things a little bit better. I don't know how on this show, but we'll if anyone's got any kitten, I can't put any kitten pictures up, can I? If you got anyone got any good jokes? Has anyone got any jokes they want to throw into the chat? And I'll read them out. And I've got my squeaky tank. I think I've got my squeaky tank. Do I still have my squeaky tank? Yes, I've still got my squeaky tank. So that's good. So as long as I know I've got my squeaky tank, I can tell a shit joke and hopefully make Plum Duff's day a little tiny bit better. That's the hope. I hate waking up and having a shit fucking day. What makes me laugh is when homophobic men are scared of gay men as though a gay man could possibly fancy them. Yeah. I always liked what Stephen Fry said when he was, if he was ever like attacked in school for being gay, he'll say, "Don't hit me, it gives me an erection." It's fucking genius. But yeah. The gays are banging on about Jojo Siwa getting married to a man, whoever she is. Yeah, I mean, so what? Like, people should be able to marry whoever they want. Don't put them in a pigeonhole. Don't put them in a pigeonhole and say this is, my entire life. And the most of the people I know, and all the people I know who are gay and or lesbian, they don't. That's not the definition of their life. Do you know what I mean? They don't have it written on their fucking business card. In the same way that my trans friends don't want them being trans to be their entire life. They've got a life to live. It's just a facet. It's like, I've got red hair, or I'm left-handed, or I'm on the autism spectrum or something. It's just something in life. It doesn't have to dominate everything that people think about you or the way you think about yourself. Unfortunately, because of the media obsession and the obsession of certain billionaires around trans people at the moment, which is just weird and creepy and weird. Yeah, look, genital inspectors in schools in America to make sure that the right people are playing softball. The right 8-year-olds are playing softball because the boys and girls had to be separated at the age. That to me is just mind blowing and sick and horrific, and yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Anyway, we've got an image here of Rosie Huntington Whiteley. Bloody hell. Did you think she went to a state school? I don't even know who she is. I've never heard of her. Huntington Whiteley. She's born in Plymouth. She grew up near Tavistock. She's she was, her paternal grandfather was a wing commander, nephew of the first Baron Montchamley. That's probably not pronounced like that, is it? There you go. She went to Tavistock College, which is actually no, it's a normal school. Well, it's an academy, which isn't quite a normal school, but yeah, it's there you go. And she was bullied and teased for having a double-barreled name. Okay. Anyway, there she is in Paris, crossing the road. She's crossing the road. She's just trying to cross the road, man. Just leave her to cross the road. Tories pledge tax bonus for first home after first job. Young people will be given £5,000 national insurance rebate towards the cost of their first home when they get their first full-time job under the Conservatives' plan to reward work. This is the same Conservatives that want to try and get rid of, what was it? 750,000 people from other countries. I don't know why she showed me that. Cyprus. Does anyone want to go to Cyprus? Anyone want to buy some knickers? Never trust a celeb. Alan Carr ready for traitors, with celebrity traitors, which should be quite interesting. And then we've got Strictly. Something happened in Strictly. Someone probably sexually assaulted someone. I don't know. Gary Neville's plea: don't use our flag to divide us. Former England star says symbol of pride has been hijacked to spread hatred, which it absolutely has. Gary Neville has accused those behind the spate of flag flying across the nation of sowing division and hate. Yeah, they're showing their love of Nigel Farage. They're not showing their love of this country. They're showing their love of a of a fucking Russian asset. My husband has cheated on me at least 3 times, but he earns so much I won't ever leave him. What a really twatty headline. What a really twatty, misogynistic, patriarchal fucking headline that is, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't that like a green fucking card for every rich, arrogant, fucking neo-aristocratic twat, nepo baby, privately educated scumbag to just go, well, I can just cheat on my wife as long, it's fine because I'm dead rich, and she's not going to leave me because I'm dead rich. Fuck that, I say. If he's cheated 3 times, she should be able to take all of his fucking money, not even half of it, and all the money he earns, going forward. He stood up, husband. It said husband, didn't it? So he stood up in front of all of her friends, all of her family, all of his friends, all of his family, and the inventor of the universe, if they got married in a church, and said, I'm not going to fuck anybody else for the rest of my life except for this person here. And he's gone back on that 3 times. He lied to you, he lied to me, he lied to her, he lied to the family, he lied to the inventor of the universe. When people are prepared to stand there and lie to God, you've got to wonder, haven't you? So, I'm not a big fan of marriage, but I'm a big fan of divorce. This is probably what she should do. Right, Megan. Hello, Megan. What's she done today? She's looking radiant. That's what she's done. She's gone to Paris. She's posted an insensitive video of herself passing Diana crash tunnel. Right, I guarantee, I've not read this on page 2 and 3 because I can only see the headline, but I guarantee that she's going to be doing a video where she's like in a car or something and she goes over the road that goes under the tunnel where Diana died, and she didn't even fucking realise because it's Paris, and it all looks the same to her. Probably looks the same to me. No, it doesn't. I'm joking. It's gay Paris. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful city. Apart from the ugly bits, but Le Corbusier needed to do his ugly shit, didn't he? That fucking Swiss bloody fascist scum. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Paris. Yeah, she's probably, and they've gone, oh my god, they're so insensitive. You, because she said passing Diana crash tunnel. Passing Diana crash tunnel, like not going through it and stopping and going, hey up, here's where my mother-in-law carked it in that crash what she had in 1997. Hey! No, she would have been just doing a video diary or something, being interviewed in a car, and I bet it's not even. I bet they didn't even go near it. I bet it was like down the road or something. She passed within a mile. The tunnel where Diana died. I mean, maybe if she'd been like sitting in the back of a limo, right, and the driver was a bit drunk, and she didn't have a seatbelt on, and she was being chased by paparazzi trying to recreate the scene in August, at the end of August 1997. Maybe that would be a bit insensitive. But here's an excuse to have a dig at Meghan Markle. I wonder why. I wonder why they want to dig at her in the Daily Mail, the Daily Fash, the Daily White Supremacist. Anyway, PM security chief faces MP's grillings over China spy scandal. And this is a news story that's covered in quite a few of the papers today about the fact that we were supposed to take China to court or something. And then at the last minute, we decided not to do that. So we'll get into that in a moment. We've got Lucas Gage on his explosive memoir of life as a young actor. I've never heard of Lucas. What's Lucas in? He is an American actor. Okay, cool. And he was in Fargo. And he's in White Lotus. Okay, that's why he's kind of famous. There you go. And then a fantastically stylish piece of entertainment, a TV show, I think, called Frauds. Maybe worth checking out. Alarm over minister's plan to give police more anti-protest powers. Civil liberty groups hit out a crackdown on mass demonstrations. And then we've got rallies held 2-year anniversary of Hamas attack. And that was yesterday. And UK warned by China on foreign influence scheme. China threatened to retaliate against UK government if ministers targeted parts of its security apparatus under foreign influence rules, The Guardian can disclose. So that's not good, is it? We've got Emma Watson there, looking radiant. She's having a busy day. So there you go. Brighton pins hope on peer pressure. There's the old Brighton peer. Well, one of them. They've got 2 of them, and one of them burnt down a long time ago. And now it just sits out there in the water looking sad and forlorn, and people go and take photos of the sun setting behind the pier. But you see what they've done there, because peer pressure isn't spelled like that. Peer pressure spelt with 2 E's, and they've spelt it like that because it's a pun. Anyway, so time to man up for handbags. No pockets. Pockets. Give women pockets. PM must come clean over China, say Tories. Written Commons question will force Starmer to address advisor's role in trial. So Keir Starmer must come clean over the collapse of the China spy case. The Conservatives have demanded it emerge over the weekend that Jonathan Powell, one of the Prime Minister's closest allies, told a Whitehall meeting in government that they could not brand China as an enemy in court. Key evidence which was expected by prosecutors and without which the trial could not go forward. Starmer twice came within feet of Harry in last UK visit. What an exciting story that is. Only British citizens will be able to claim benefits, says Stride. Yes, that's the way it is at the moment, pretty much. Or is this going to be people with indefinite leave to remain can't claim? Okay. So you expect migrants to pay into the system for years and years on end, and then you turn around at the end of it and go, no, I'm sorry, which you can't have any of that money back that you've paid into. Di, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Don't watch reality TV. Listen to the greats like Frank Zappa and Robert. What? Just saying. There you go. Thank you very much to Di for that. Unfortunately, my things aren't working. There you go. Is it only one fucking page long, says Vendetta? I don't know. What is one page long? I don't know. What is one page? Well, internet is crap for me today. So I'll leave you and wish you all have the best day you can. Oh, thanks very much, Scott, and see you later, mate. I think Scott's already gone. Yeah, Zappa really had his head screwed on. Yes, but he did call his daughter Moon Unit. Is it his daughter or his son? Called his kid Moon Unit. Which is awesome. Frank Zappa. Faster and cheaper buyers for buyers to move house. Labour has promised to make it faster for house buyers to move house. So this is a story about gazumping. Gazumping is the thing in great British tradition of wasting someone's time for months and months on end, agreeing a price, getting lawyers involved, getting them to spend loads of money on lawyers for a house purchase, and then at the very last minute getting a better deal and telling them to fuck off and going with your better deal. And then people are thousands of pounds out of pocket because they thought they were going to buy your house and then didn't. It's called gazumping. And Labour are going to come down on it. They're going to make it so that when you are going to sign a preliminary contract, a conditional contract, before you actually the money gets sent across for a house, and you have to keep to it. A fraud law to let banks snoop on pensioners. Fear for pensioners again. You know, this is what the Telegraph does. Libya offers help on stopping migrants, and post-Coglu fight to stay at Notts Forest. Doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, so here we have a bit more on the gazumpers. Thump the gazumpers is the headline of the Metro. PM's bid to end agony for house buyers. Sellers who pull the plug after bagging a better offer could face fines under proposed conditional contracts that I've just mentioned. So, yeah, good policy from Labour for a change. We've got the Daily Express now, or the Daily Depress, because it's so fucking depressing. Jack the Glad. Oh, I see what they've done there, because he was happy that he scored the goal. Grealish's late winner, and more in our fantastic football pullout. As Mel Stride says, country can't keep spending money it hasn't got. Tories pledge to slash 300 billion cost of welfare. 300 billion. This is the same Tories that spent 14 years cutting public services to the bone. This is the same Conservative government that Conservatives that cut central funding for councils, city and county councils across the country by over 50% in some cases. And that's why there were so many potholes in the road until Labour turned up and started actually putting money back in those things. That's why the bin delivery went down to once every blue moon. That's why the facilities for CAB and for children bereavement counselling, child bereavement counselling. I mean, you know, it was all taken away. So the Sure Start centres all shut down. And they're going to find 300 billion more. They're going to find 300 billion more of cuts. I don't think they are. And then there's a thing on the Star about elastic pants. And then and then we've got Financial Times here. Investors gold-plated FOMO, fear of missing out, propels record-breaking surge in bullion prices. People buying gold. People buy gold in times of uncertainty, and there's nothing more uncertain than having a dickhead like Trump in charge of the biggest economy on the planet. And of course, if their economy goes to shit, all economies are going to suffer as well. So there you go. And there's fucking Kemi Badenoch grinning like a maniac, saying Badenoch told she has a death wish for the Conservative Party. The Tory party leader announced that she would ditch the European Convention on Human Rights and deport 150,000 a year, causing former Attorney General Dominic Grieve to warn it would mean the demise of the party. Yeah, it absolutely would. But I think that's what she wants because she's a bit mad. Anyway, so there you go. That's what FOMO means. Fear of missing out. Yeah. 300 billion. That's basically zero welfare then. Back to the workhouse, guys. Yeah. Dweezil is his nickname. His first name is actually Calvin. Dweezil is great. Zappa isn't God, but he's got God on speed dial. I love that, Aqua. That's very good. Liam says, thanks, Sean. This time around has been much easier because of my medical cannabis. It's been a lifesaver, which is fantastic that you've been able to get that through years of campaigning of people going, what the fuck? Why is this illegal? If it alleviates symptoms for people, some people, then why is it illegal? Liam says, thank you, Kate. I relapsed on cocaine this year. I was a daily user, spending hundreds a week again. The world got rough again. I decided to numb myself, snap back out of it. Well, that's great news that you snapped back out of it, Liam. And I hope that you find something more constructive to spend your money on, to be frank, because cocaine is a shit drug. It's not even a fun drug. It just makes people more angry. It just makes people more intolerable. Anyway, so I'm going to get off now. So thank you so much for watching. Obviously, we've had a bit of a bumper episode today. I'll be back tonight at 9 o'clock with Stateside. So please join us for that. First Stateside in over a month now. So please join us. We'll be talking about all the mad shit that's been going on in America and the government shutdown and what's going to happen next. And then tomorrow we've got the first episode of Geoscope for a while. Me and Ollie Bowler Hatman, and we'll be talking about international politics and international news. And obviously we'll be covering what's happening in Israel-Palestine there. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. Plumduff, I hope you're feeling a little bit better. I hope we cheered you up a little bit, considering you've had a bit of a fucking awful start to the day, and everyone else out there as well. I hope this gives you a little bit of a boost in the morning. Calling these knobheads is always helps me. But I'd just like to say thanks for watching and thanks for your messages. Thanks for the super chats. Really appreciate that. Thanks for keep the channel afloat. And like I say, I'll be back later today. And if you don't catch me then, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with another morning brew. Give a like on the way out. And until next time, say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.